Wow, good morning, everyone. Good morning, this wonderful Saturday. It's a sunny morning, and we are happy to be here today. My name is Zipporah Kuria, and I'm going to be your host this morning. And we are going to have this podcast that is brought by Aurum Consultants, where we discuss all matters concerning human resource. And of course, human resource is the fuel that drives all our organizations. So today we are talking about productivity and performance. And of course, we need to know who monitors productivity. Is it the HR manager? Is it the manager? Who is responsible? On our studio today is our HR specialist, CHRP Martha Thuku. Karibu sana, Martha.
Thank you, Zippy. Karibu, viewers.
Thank you, Martha. And our guest today, Mr. Thiong'o, an accomplished entrepreneur and author with many years of corporate experience, and attached to his name is many accolades. And of course, is the CEO of the Next Level Mavericks Group. Karibu sana, Mr. Thiong'o, and kindly introduce yourself and what you do.
Thank you so much, Sephora, and happy to be on your podcast today. My name is CPA John Thiong'o. I'm an accountant by training and an entrepreneur. Currently the CEO of Next Level Mavericks Group. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Karibu sana, and I hope that we are going to learn together. Feel free to make your comments, ask questions so that we can all be blessed. The conversation we want to have today about productivity and performance management is a question both management in organizations, managers, employees must understand and answer. We always talk about productivity, talk about performance, but the big question today is, do we even understand what this means and what is the responsibility of each one of us? And this is because we are all players, and in this critical element of any business, we must understand what it is. So Martha, maybe you can help us start this conversation. Where do we start when it comes to employee productivity?
Thank you, Zippy. So let me just start by saying that what we do wrong as far as when we think about productivity in the workplace, especially, we always assume productivity means getting some things done each day, meaning that you report to the office, you do tasks, and you feel like you're productive. And for me, that is wrong. There is a motivational speaker called James Clear. He defined productivity as getting important things done consistently. And note the word consistent. And no matter what you are working on, there are only a few things that are really, truly important. So remember, before, just when we got employed, and that's when really the issue of performance management was coming up. Remember the way we had to define what needs to be done and what are your key performance indicators. And when we introduced performance management in my organization, we realized that there is a way you can come to work every day. You go home so tired, but at the end of the day, you are not able to tell exactly what you have been doing. And you're telling your family, I'm so tired. So, and that's why it is important to talk about productivity and exactly what it is so that you understand what you need to do for you to be productive. Remember, being productive is about maintaining a steady average of what you do and the things you do. So you don't have to be very fast. You need to be consistent in what you do. So I wanted to start off the conversations that way ZP, thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Martha, and I appreciate your input into this conversation. And something I've picked from you, important and consistency. What is important in those areas of productivity? What is critical? What is important? And how do we ensure that consistency is happening? How do we define what is expected of you in terms of productivity, in terms of what we are going to see at the end as the result? Mr. Thiong'o, you can help us understand this from a practical perspective. What you've been able to experience, what you're implementing in your organizations. Where do we start with productivity?
Thank you, Sipora. And I think Mother has brought it very well that productivity is about what gets done. Productivity is about results. It's not about activity. You can be very busy on the floor. You can be very busy at your workplace, looking very busy, but you're not getting things done. So productivity is about what gets done. It's about quality. It's about getting results done. And therefore, there is a very positive correlation between staff productivity, meaning each employee getting and becoming productive, and the organization achieving its goals, achieving its targets. When each employee becomes productive, then you're looking at an organization that is already on its way to achieving its set goals and corporate objectives for that matter. An organization will therefore fully achieve its corporate goals without having individual employees achieving individual productivity. And therefore, this is a big topic. This is a big issue in corporate world today. And each CEO, each manager must therefore go out of their way to make sure that each employee that they have is attaining their optimal productivity. And there are therefore quite a number of things that one would have to really put in place to say that your people, your employees are moving towards productivity. One of them is ensuring that you have a culture of setting your goals and KPIs early. Because for you to say that there is productivity, then you must have a way of measuring what gets done. As accountants, we say if it is not measured, it does not exist. You know that it exists when you start measuring it. You know it's being done when you start measuring it. So deciding on your goals through business plans, annual work plans, it's a crucial place to start. That at every start of the year, each organization must be able to come out so clearly and say that these are the goals, these are the business plans, these are the numbers, another important KPIs depending on your area of business. Once you are able to set those, then you're able to cascade them down to what each employee must contribute to in terms of attainment of those goals. I think that's a very important starting point, because then it becomes easy and possible to measure productivity of an employee, productivity even of a department as you go along the year, as you go along your performance period. And there are, of course, many other things that need to be done. Once those have been set in place, then each line manager, each supervisor must know what is expected of them and what is expected of the employees that are working with them. And then communicating these goals, communicating these KPIs to your staff, that becomes very important, because you'll not be able to measure someone's productivity if they don't know what they're meant to be doing, at what time, breaking it down into chunks for them. But something else that mother said that becomes very important then is to focus on task completion. I see a lot of people who are touching and starting so many things, but then they don't get them completed. Productivity is about completion. Productivity is about getting results done in completeness. And I think that is something that a lot of our people need to really internalize. And of course, as you do all that, the whole aspect of emphasizing documentation and communication. Because for you to then be able to say there's productivity, you need to have the trail of documentation that shows that work has been done and done to the expected quality. Because productivity also focuses on quality more than quantity. And I think that's another paradigm shift that we need to onboard as we talk about productivity. Then providing regular appraisals and feedback to the staff so that they can know when you assess that their productivity is low because of 1, 2, 3 reasons, when you know that when you're saying that it is average, or when you are saying that they actually meet and exceed your expectation with regards to productivity. So it's a whole myriad of lessons here and best practices that we should be onboarding for our organizations with regard to productivity. Thank you, Sipora.
And Zippy,
Wow.
before you come in, I wanted to add in something, or touch on something Mr. Thiong'o said. He talked about meeting organizational objectives, and in my mind, it means then that first of all, the organization must be clear about its objective. So there should be a strategic plan for the organization, who we are and what we are about, and where we are going. And this plan must be sold to everyone. So you must get buy-in from the people you're working with. And this is the plan that each person or each level manager is able to pick up their deliverables that are going to answer to the strategic plan. So with the strategic plan, it comes, and he touched also about organizational culture. You have to kind of actively develop a culture that is performance oriented or productivity oriented. So you can't let your staff come in every day and go home and you're thinking you're doing well, because you don't know whether they're answering to what you are about. And after that, every department is cascaded on their part or their portion from the main strategic plan. The goal is to ensure that you are meeting what is in the strategic plan. And when you have all done that, then you need to put measures of analyzing or measuring how you are doing. Yeah, monitoring and evaluation. And that's why you find some organizations who are great thinkers about productivity and performance management. You find them, they actually have a performance management process, meaning each manager has their goals that are answering to the strategic plan, and then you go to your department and you find out how each person in this department is what they are going to do within the course of this year, so that we achieve the strategic, we serve the strategic plan. So you find them setting goals, and these are those the key ones. Remember, we said it is not everything you're doing. It's just some specific hits that you need to know that this one, I need to, when I accomplish this, I can go home and say, I'm done. So you set those ones. Most organizations call them differently. Some call them key performance indicators. Others call them key performance something. There's a word that you use. And then they have a process of monitoring and evaluation, engaging, ongoing communication as manager with your staff. How is it doing? These goals we set, are they achievable? Are they even smart should we continue this way, or should we drop some and add in more and all that? And then you find them at the end of the year, they now are able to measure the performance against the set targets that they set within the course of the year. So that is key for fast growing organizations who want to ensure that their staff are productive every day. So like in ZPO, when we are leaving the house, that's when our day starts. You with that telephone call. And that telephone call from a staff can mean a lot. It can take the whole day. So you find you have put the things you want to do the whole day, but you find you never touched. It's 5 p.m. and you have not touched any of those because then of many things that happen. But the most important is you will still keep going back where you wrote what your key performance indicator is, because these phone calls, this person who has come to the office and taken all your 3 hours, those are not part of the key KPIs. So there's that. And also, there's also he talked about communication, and strengthening the communication protocols are so important. That having maybe an organogram that is working. So if you have put me as a manager, let me work with my people. So you strengthen me so that when I'm communicating with my team. Most executives sometimes they jump the gun and they decide, I don't have to talk to ZP, I can talk to one of her employees. So Martha, do this for me, and ZP is not aware, and they're supposed to be measuring their staff on what they are doing. So strengthening those communication lines, it's so important, yeah, and identifying those goals must align, of course, with the performance, with the strategic plan. So those are just a few things I wanted to add from what Mr. Thiong'o said. Thank you.
Wow, great insights right there. Great insights right there. And learning a lot, making a lot of notes myself. And something I've picked from Mr. Thiong'o is about what gets done. We can talk about so many things, but at the end of the day is what has been done, what has been achieved. It's about the quality of the output of the work that we have done. When we are measuring, when we are looking at what was supposed to be done to vis-a-vis what has been done, are we able to quantify? Are we able to say we have achieved our objective? We have achieved our productivity. And something else, Mr. Thiong'o, you've talked about, which I find very key, is individual productivity, because every individual in an organization must understand, must realize their responsibility and the expectation. So individual productivity is so critical to achieving the overall objective. So as an employee, I must understand what is expected of me as an individual to be able to achieve the business objective. You've also talked about culture, and I remember we chatted this in the last couple of weeks, and how culture affects our organization. And, we need to be able to set our KPIs early. Now we are in November, going to December. This is the time we need to be setting our objectives, our goals for next year. We need to have reviewed where are we vis-a-vis what we set in the beginning of the year, and start setting targets for next year. So again, making sure that we are planning early is very critical. Having the annual work plans and having a way of reviewing that. And Mr. Thiong'o, you talked about breaking it into small bits and pieces. Sometimes we make a big plan, but we don't break it down. And actually what happens, it looks like it's impossible to achieve. But when you break it down, you realize how easy it becomes to achieve. So again, making sure you're breaking it down for your team and your team understands. Communicating the goals. Again, when we make those goals, how do we communicate them to our managers, to the team at the floor level? How do they understand what is expected? How is that communication? We need to look at our communication. Now we are having breakdowns in our communication. Last month, we were talking about communication and how this is a challenge in many organizations. So when we are communicating our goals, our objectives, how are we making sure that communication is getting down to the employees the way it's intended? Documentation is something else, Mr. Thiong'o, you've talked about. A lot of times we don't track. We don't document. So what happens? How do we review? We don't evaluate, we don't monitor, and it's very critical. I've been working with organizations actually, and a lot of times we think monitoring and evaluations is for NGOs. No, even in profit-making organizations, we need to monitor and we need to evaluate, because that's the only way we can be able to quantify our productivity. Mother, you talked about the strategic plan. Again, I've seen a lot of times organizations coming up with a strategic plan, very beautiful documents, invest a lot of money in bringing specialists to help us come up with strategic plans. But it ends up becoming another document in the shelf that just gathers dust and we never implement. And one of the things I've been learning is we need to break that down to a one-page strategic plan, because if it's not on a one page and you cannot be able to bring it in a way you can view it in one page, then it can be very difficult to implement. You might implement one or two things here, but you will probably not implement your strategic plan properly. The other thing that, Mother, you've talked about is um, the the many activities you're doing in a daily basis. And sometimes you get a phone call, and that phone call takes hours, and you end up not actually achieving your objectives. And this is what I call the whirlwind, where you are caught up into the small, small things that must happen for business to move on, but it does not contribute to your productivity. So you need to actually look at what are my lead measures, what are my lag measures, what am I expected to, achieve at the end of the day, irrespective of the whirlwind that is happening around me, irrespective of I have to write warning letters, I have to write shock cause letters, I have to write a contract. That's part of your whirlwind, that's part of your daily activities. But there's a productivity that is expected of you from a strategic perspective. So you need to be able to understand that and align yourself to the organizational objectives. We have some comments from some of our good viewers. I can see Anthony Courier, our usual host, and he says productivity about results. Well put, Mr. Thiong'o. Communication is critical in performance and productivity management. Very, very true, Mr. Anthony. And I really, really enjoy this conversation, because I believe that if we don't understand productivity, then it's going to be difficult to actually even measure that performance. So we must understand what is expected of us. Mr. Thiong'o, maybe you can help us understand, where do we start? How do we prepare employees and managers for this productivity we are talking about? How do we even bring them to the table to understand these difficult conversations? Because a lot of times they are on the receiving end of productivity, they are not performing. So how do we prepare them?
Thank you, Sipora. And again, that's another very important aspect. Let me start by putting this right, that productivity is everyone's business in an organization. Productivity is priority business for the board, the CEO, the line managers, the employees, and even the HR function of the organization. It is one thing that must be tackled and addressed from a 360-degree perspective. And once an organization, therefore, puts in place a culture that values and measures productivity, the organization is already on its way to becoming efficient, to becoming productive, to becoming successful. How then do we therefore prepare our managers and our employees for productivity? I think for me it's about the small things. The small things matter. It will take things like, one, improving the workplace conditions. By that I mean surround your people with the right cues, so that as people work, as your employees work, as everyone works within your organization, they're already picking the right cues that remind them that it's all about productivity. It's all about results. It's all about focusing on our economic engine, so to speak, and so to call them. So improve your workplace conditions. Make sure that you have put the right cues that remind people on what is most important for the day, for the season, for the month, and so on and so on. My first job, I used to work with a vehicle production company. And I like the way they used to do it because everywhere you went within the production lines, within the offices, you would find they had put notice boards that actually would remind you about the targets for the day, the theme for the month, the theme for the week, and so on and so on. And therefore, the workplace conditions were such that you are always reminded about where your focus should be at. Number two is allow flexible schedules. Why do I say that? And especially right now that we are dealing with Generation Z and the more young population that is getting to the workplace. I think allowing flexible schedules is a big thing, is becoming a big thing, a big enabler to productivity. What I mean with this is basically just allow and adopt for flexibility. But as you do that, demand results. And let people know that your big picture is results. Your big picture is getting quality of a quantity. And once you set all that in place and you give people the flexibility, but with clarity of message that what we need is to deliver what is needed, then that culture starts to flow within your people and you see people getting more focused on what must be done. Number three, we live in a world where there's so many meetings. And sometimes a lot of our hours at work go to meetings. That calls for another important thing, optimizing meetings. I have been to spaces where the whole day is back to back meetings. But when you look at what people are achieving in those meetings, you don't see much. People end up talking and talking and talking and not becoming clear about what need to be concluded on, what resolutions need to be passed, what agendas need to be crossed. So optimize meetings. It will surprise you how much productivity you can achieve by having optimal meetings with your teams and encouraging your teams towards optimizing meetings. I have a policy that says if there is no agenda, there is no meeting. So every meeting must start with a clear agenda, and the agenda has to be followed through until we resolve and close all the issues that brought us to the meeting. It's painful to see a group of 10 managers and employees sitting in a boardroom with no clear agenda, because that's a lot of time wasted. If you sat there for 2 hours with a team of your 10 best resources, you have wasted 2 times 10, 20 hours of productivity. So optimize meeting. It looks simple, but a lot of time gets lost in meetings that have no clarity and clear agenda. Another one is just set clear deadlines and expectations. One of the things we do in my organization, my general manager reads that important aspect is that for every meeting we go to, as we go along work, we pick all the action points that people are promising and that we are agreeing on, and we put them together in what we call a prioritized action dashboard. And that gets tracked, and it is shared every other week to every department, to every employee who is concerned. And we keep tracking them. It's a traffic light report that says that, yes, we agreed this need to be done. You are still at red. It has not moved. When it starts moving, it gets to amber. When it is completed, it gets to green. And so that dashboard, that report keeps building up. And you start seeing people who are not crossing matters. You start seeing people who are not crossing action points. And with time, you actually realize that everyone gets into the rhythm. Remember, the most important thing is flow, getting momentum. There is a book I'll read. It's called Ikigai. Basically, it says that the most important thing is not even getting to the to whatever you are calling the end product. It is the process, the flow that you are creating. That is what keeps you going. And therefore, keep your people going by surrounding them with the right conditions, the right work environment, but also helping them to be completion oriented. And something like the one I've just shared about the traffic light report helps people a lot. But then coach employees on priorities. Every time I meet my key team members, I keep reminding them, remember, this is our focus. This is our priorities. Because sometimes we get lost with the many tasks that need to be done. And sometimes it's very easy to forget what is our biggest priority, what will take us there. Yeah. Sometimes the biggest priority, if you're in an environment that is all about selling, the biggest priority is to sell and to close deals. Whatever you do, that is where it counts. So you have to keep reminding your people about that. So coach them. Use one-on-one meetings to coach on priorities and be very clear about that. The whole thing about learning management skills is very important, especially for our people, because in Africa, sometimes we are not very time conscious. Teach your people, help your people to appreciate time management skills. Help them to know that it helps to get it booked in your calendar, that everything else that is not in your calendar is actually a distraction. So as they start their day, let them have notes, very clear notes on what they need to do for the day, on what they need to do for the week. I love having meetings with my teams on Mondays, because then you start the week knowing what would be a priority for the week, what you need to get done. But help them and remind them to get it noted, to get it booked. Because when it is booked, it becomes a priority. Every other thing is a distraction. So avoid those interruptions and encourage your people to do what we call a deep dive. Once they know what is the priorities, once they know what is the focus areas for this week, for this month, for this year, allow them to deep dive, because that is the only way then that you avoid distractions and you retain focus. It's all about focus. It's all about focusing on the most important. And finally, it's important to boost morale by celebrating accomplishments. Sometimes, we lose it when we don't celebrate. It's about the small things, as I said. And therefore, if it's about those small things, when it gets done, when these small things get done, celebrate it. Celebrate it now. The moments are perishable, guys. Don't postpone the celebration. Celebrate it. It's about doing it now. When people know that when you get it done, it will be celebrated, then they look forward to crossing the next thing, to crossing the next action point, to getting it done. And before you know, it becomes culture. Thank you so much.
Wow. Wow. We can write a book from just those moments, Mr. Thiong'o, right there. Such insightful comments right there. And I want to believe that we are learning. Picked quite a number of things before we move to mother's contribution. Small things matter. Sometimes we ignore those small things, but they matter. And Mr. Thiong'o, you've talked about giving your employees the right cues. As a leader, as a manager, you must give your team the right cues. You've talked about flexible work schedules, yet to demand results. Yes, the employee is benefiting from these flexi work schedules, but what are you getting in return? So it has to be very clear what you're demanding back for you to be able to give the flexi schedules. Otherwise, you give the flexi schedules, then you get nothing. So demand the results. And quality over quantity. It's not about the so many things you will do, because you can be caught up in the rat race of accomplishing so many tasks. but what is the quality of the work you're doing? And I think that needs to be very critical if we are going to look at productivity and we are going to say we are achieving our objectives, having quality output. Meetings is something else, and this I've experienced. And I remember we had one client who used to actually come and make a lot of noise because people are spending too much time in meetings. You know, from morning to evening, managers are actually in meetings, yet they are not giving any results. You are stuck just discussing what should be done, but what should be done is never done. So it's important for us to optimize meetings like Mr. Thiong'o has told us. We need to understand what is the agenda of the meeting, what are we looking at achieving, what are the action points after this meeting, what should we achieve so that when we meet next, it's not going to be just another discussion that has no action. So make sure, again, you are optimizing your meetings. How much time are you spending on these meetings? Is it necessary to have a 2-hour meeting? Or can you have that meeting actually in 30 minutes and achieve more? And again, of course, that will come with having a clear agenda. Set clear deadlines and expectations. Again, very critical. You know, if you don't set clear deadlines, if you don't set the expectations, it's never done. It's the same thing with what Thiong'o said earlier about documentation. If you don't document, it's never done and becomes something that we always talk about, but we never see the end of it. Time management, I cannot overemphasize on this because time, I think, is the only resource. If you lose it, you will never recover it. It's not like when you lose money, you will say, I will work hard and make some extra money. When you lose time, it's gone forever. And you have lost that resource. It's very expensive. So it's important for us to teach and coach and train our team members to understand the element of time management. If a meeting is supposed to start at 8, be there 5 minutes earlier. Don't come at 8 or 5. You are already too late. You've already wasted a very expensive resource. Thank you so much, Thiong'o, for those insights. Martha, what's your comment?
Hey, I'm wondering after that. That was so insightful, and I've learned a lot, Mr. Thiong'o. I'll just maybe just add something like aligning. You start by aligning your goals. First of all, identify them and aligning your goals with the strategy. It is so important. Even before you align, it's so important that everyone is clear on what they are doing. And it's okay to spend time on training. So I have worked a lot with doctors, and they assume when you get a job, you know what you need to do. And I tell them, no, you have to train. If I go to Mr. Thiong'o's school as a HR manager, I know the basics of HR, but I have to learn how this school does its things. So I can't just be put in the deep end and expect to be productive. So it's okay to take some time, even if you're going to take a week, just training on what you're about and what each is supposed to identify the goals for each person and put them down. It's okay. That week is productive because then we live there all in the same page and we know we are driving towards the same end goal. The other thing is I just wanted to add is about when he talked about coaching. I thought coaching is a strong key. When you're coaching your staff, you let them kind of they're able to bring out all they can be without having to keep on telling on them what to do. So some autonomy is important. You let the staff make their decisions. Some can make a mistake, and Zippy, you can agree with me. Most of the things we have achieved, we learned first by making a mistake, and then now we know how not to do that thing. So some autonomy is good, and then you kind of have a culture of learning, so that at every point we are all learning. You could structure the learning, or you can there are some organizations who can afford even to pay for courses, for trainings, and just to make sure that your employees' skills are upgraded. Remember, we are working in a very fast-paced environment. So things keep changing and there needs to be learning going on. Then the idea of technology comes in. Remember, as I have said, things change, especially technology. What we use, how we used to do it last year may not be how it's being done. And you are in competition. So for you to be able to beat competition, you also have to come in and improve your technology, emphasize on the technology, and provide that technology to your employees. And as he's talked about celebrating small wins, I also thought of encouraging healthy competition. It is okay. I think it is Java. I don't know which hotel. You'll find the names of winners, staff winners in every branch. They are appearing somewhere in the office. Encourage that healthy competition so that I see, oh, it's Zippy's name there. Next month, it's my name that will be there. So some of those things are things that you can do. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Martha, for those comments as well. So critical to mention celebrating wins and, making sure there is healthy competition. Because sometimes that competition can become unhealthy and can work against you as a business. But encourage healthy competitions. Make sure you are celebrating those wins and don't postpone to celebrate them later. Celebrate them now. Wow, wow. Such a wonderful conversation today. Thank you so much, Mr. John Thiong'o. Thank you so much, Martha, as always, for your support. We are coming to the end of our podcast. And if you would like to get support on performance management, please feel free to reach out to us on the contact on our screen, on our social media handles, on our website, and we'll be happy to support you. If you would like to meet our guest, he runs a very good place, a dining place, the Mavericks at the Gateway Mall. If you want to grab a meal, they have wonderful meals there. Please feel free to visit. If you're looking at investing in passive income, they have property as well. Reach out to them. If you're looking at just becoming fit, they have a gym all at the same place. So feel free to reach us on our contacts, and we'll be happy to connect you with Mr. John. He's also an author, like I mentioned. Please grab his book, Becoming a Maverick, a book that will transform your life. Until next week, be blessed and join us for our conversations next week, same time, same place. Thank you and God bless you.